In the bustling city of Lagos, where skyscrapers stretched toward the sky and the streets never truly slept, there stood a mansion that seemed to exist in another world. Behind its tall black gates, trimmed hedges, and marble fountain lived the Adeyemis, a family so wealthy that their name alone carried weight. Inside this grand home worked Amara, a young woman of 23. Though she wore a plain uniform and kept her head bowed most of the time, there was a quiet strength about her. Her life had been a series of battles, losing her parents to illness at a tender age, being shuffled between relatives who barely cared, and finally, taking up work as a maid to support her younger brother, Chinedu. To the outside world, Amara was lucky to work for the Adeyemis. Their pay was generous, and the mansion provided a roof over her head. But beneath the glittering surface, this house was a storm waiting to break. Mrs. Adeyemi was often away on business trips abroad, leaving Mr. Adeyemi, Chief Adeyemi as everyone called him, alone in the mansion. He was a powerful man, commanding respect wherever he went. Yet, in the quiet corners of the house, Amara saw a side of him no one else did. He had a temper, sharp and cutting like a knife. Amara had learned to move silently, to anticipate his moods before he spoke, to make herself invisible whenever his footsteps echoed down the hall. But lately, things had begun to change. One rainy evening, Amara was in the kitchen preparing dinner. Thunder rumbled outside, and the smell of freshly baked bread filled the room. She heard the heavy slam of the front door and froze. Chief Adeyemi had returned. Amara, his voice boomed through the house. "Yes, sir," she called back, quickly wiping her hands on her apron. He entered the kitchen, his expression unreadable, his expensive suit slightly damp from the rain. His eyes swept over her like a predator sizing up prey. "Where is my tea?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. Amara's heart skipped. I was just about to prepare it, sir." "Just about to?" His tone rose sharply. "How many times must I repeat myself? When I come home, my tea should be waiting." She lowered her head. "I'm sorry, sir. It won't happen again." He scoffed, turning away. "Useless girl. Just like all the rest." As he walked out, Amara's hands trembled. She wasn't afraid of hard work, but the way he spoke to her, the way he looked at her, was beginning to unnerve her. That night, after cleaning up, Amara retreated to the tiny room she shared with another maid, Ngozi. She picked up her phone and saw a text from Chinedu. "Sis, school fees are due next week. Please, don't forget. I don't want to miss my exams." Her chest tightened. She had been saving every naira she could, denying herself little pleasures, just to keep Chinedu in school. She couldn't fail him. The next day, Mrs. Adeyemi returned unexpectedly from her trip. The atmosphere in the house shifted instantly. Mrs. Adeyemi was elegant and poised, but there was a sadness in her eyes, like someone carrying a heavy burden. At dinner, Amara overheard an argument between the couple. "You spend money like water, Adeyemi," Mrs. Adeyemi said, her voice trembling. "Do you ever think about our future? About this family?" Chief Adeyemi slammed his glass down. "This family is secure because of me. Do not question me, woman." Amara stayed out of sight, her stomach twisting. Their fights were becoming more frequent and more vicious. Later that night, as she was cleaning the sitting room, Chief Adeyemi entered, reeking of alcohol. His eyes were glassy, his steps unsteady. "Amara," he slurred, leaning against the doorway. She stiffened. "Yes, sir?" "Come here." Her instinct screamed at her to run, but she forced herself to move closer. "You work so hard," he said, his hand reaching out to touch her shoulder. "You're different from the others." Amara's breath caught. "Thank you, sir, but I should finish cleaning." He tightened his grip. "Stay." Panic surged through her. "Sir, please, I..." Before she could finish, Mrs. Adeyemi's voice rang out sharply from the hallway. Adeyemi! What are you doing? He jerked back, his face darkening with anger. Mind your business, woman. No, she shouted, stepping between them. I will not stand by while you. Enough, he roared. This is my house. My rules. Amara fled to her room, shaking. That night, she couldn't sleep. She thought about quitting, but the image of Chinedu's hopeful face held her back. She couldn't abandon him now. Days passed in tense silence. Mrs. Adeyemi barely spoke to her husband, and Chief Adeyemi became harsher than ever, lashing out at everyone around him. Then, one evening, everything changed. Amara was polishing the silverware in the dining room when she heard Chief Adeyemi shouting on the phone. His voice was so loud it carried through the walls. You think you can betray me? He bellowed. I will destroy you and your entire family. Amara froze. Something about his tone was different, colder, more dangerous. Moments later, he stormed into the dining room, his face red with fury. Amara, he barked. She jumped, nearly dropping the silver tray. Yes, sir? Where is my wife? I think she went to the garden, sir. He glared at her. Tell her to come inside. Now. Amara ran to the garden and found Mrs. Adeyemi sitting on a bench, tears streaming down her face. Madam, Amara said gently, Chief wants to see you. Mrs. Adeyemi wiped her eyes. Of course he does. He always wants something. They walked back together, the tension thick in the air. When they entered the living room, Chief Adeyemi was pacing like a caged animal. There you are, he snarled. Do you think you can hide from me? Mrs. Adeyemi's chin lifted defiantly. I'm not hiding. I'm tired, Adeyemi. Tired of your anger, your threats, your cruelty. He took a step closer, his hand raised. You dare speak to me like that? Amara's breath caught. She knew if she didn't intervene, something terrible would happen. Sir, please, she said softly, maybe you should. Shut up, he roared at her. Something inside Amara snapped. No, she said, her voice trembling but firm. You shut up. The room fell silent. Even the rain outside seemed to pause. Chief Adeyemi turned slowly, his eyes blazing. What did you just say to me? Amara's heart pounded, but she didn't back down. I said shut up. Please, sir. For once in your life, just shut up. Mrs. Adeyemi gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Chief Adeyemi stared at Amara like she was a stranger. Then, in a low, dangerous voice, he said, You dare speak to me this way? A mere maid? Amara swallowed hard. Yes, because you won't listen to anyone else. You think money and power make you a god, but you're tearing this family apart. You're hurting everyone around you, and you don't even see it. Mrs. Adeyemi's eyes filled with tears. She's right, Adeyemi. You've become a monster. For a moment, Chief Adeyemi looked shaken. Then rage consumed him again. He lunged toward Amara. But before he could reach her, the front door burst open. Daddy, a young voice cried. It was their daughter, Kemi, home unexpectedly from university. She froze at the sight of her father towering over Amara, his hand raised. Daddy, what are you doing? She whispered. Chief Adeyemi stopped, his chest heaving. The sight of his daughter seemed to pierce through his anger like sunlight through a storm. In that fragile silence, Amara's words hung in the air like a prayer. The room felt frozen in time. No one dared to move. Chief Adeyemi's arm slowly dropped to his side, his breathing ragged. His daughter's wide, tear-filled eyes seemed to strip away his defenses, leaving him exposed and vulnerable. Kemi, he stammered, his voice trembling, this is not what it looks like. But Kemi wasn't convinced. Not what it looks like. Daddy, I saw you about to hit her. How could you even think of doing that? Mrs. Adeyemi rushed to her daughter's side, holding her close. My dear, you don't understand. This has been going on for a long time. Amara stood frozen, her heart racing. She hadn't intended to speak out, but she couldn't stand by any longer. Chief Adeyemi turned to his wife, his face pale. You've poisoned our daughter against me, haven't you? You've been telling her lies. Mrs. Adeyemi's voice was calm but filled with sorrow. I didn't need to tell her anything, Adeyemi. Your actions speak louder than words. Amara, summoning every ounce of courage, stepped forward. Sir, please, let me explain why I told you to shut up. He glared at her, his pride wounded. Explain? You dare to justify your insolence? Yes, she said firmly. Because if I don't, you'll never understand. Amara took a deep breath, her voice shaking. I grew up with a father like you. A man who thought fear was love and control was protection. My mother suffered in silence, just like Madam here. And one night, after another terrible fight, my father walked out and never came back. My mother died of heartbreak shortly after, leaving me and my younger brother alone in this world. Tears welled in her eyes as she continued, I started working here not just to survive, but to give my brother a better life. Every time I saw Madam cry or heard you yell, it was like reliving my childhood. I didn't want to speak up, but tonight, when I saw you raise your hand, I couldn't stay silent. I couldn't let this house become like mine. Kemi gasped, clinging to her mother. Mrs. Adeyemi covered her mouth, sobbing quietly. Chief Adeyemi staggered backward as if struck. For the first time, his mask of authority cracked. His voice was barely a whisper. I didn't realize. Amara's tears streamed freely now. Sir, your family loves you. They just want peace. Please, don't make them fear you like I feared my father. The silence that followed was deafening. Chief Adeyemi sank into a chair, his head in his hands. I thought I was protecting this family, he said hoarsely. But I've been destroying it. Mrs. Adeyemi approached cautiously, kneeling beside him. It's not too late, Adeyemi. But you have to change. For Kemi, for me, for all of us. Kemi whispered, Daddy, I just want my family back. Amara turned to leave, certain her presence was no longer needed. But Chief Adeyemi called out softly, Amara, thank you. You opened my eyes, even if it hurt to hear the truth. Amara bowed her head, relief washing over her. I only hope you'll do better, sir. For the first time, he nodded humbly. As Amara walked back to her small room, she felt a strange mix of sadness and hope. She didn't know what the future held, but tonight, perhaps, a cycle of pain had finally been broken. The following days were unlike anything Amara had experienced since she started working in the Adeyemi household. The once tense and oppressive atmosphere began to shift. Chief Adeyemi, who had always ruled the home with anger and fear, became unusually quiet and reflective. Instead of barking orders, he spent most of his time alone in his study, his booming voice replaced by an eerie silence. At first, Amara was wary. She had seen men like him make promises they never intended to keep. But slowly, she noticed subtle changes, genuine changes. One morning, as Amara was setting the table for breakfast, Chief Adeyemi walked in. She stiffened instinctively, but he raised his hands in a calming gesture. Amara, he said softly, please, sit for a moment. I'd like to speak with you. Her eyes widened. In all her months here, he had never asked her to sit. She perched on the edge of a chair, her hands folded nervously. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, he began, his voice heavy with remorse. You were right. I've been blinded by my pride. I thought being feared meant being respected, but all I did was push my family away. Amara said nothing, her heart pounding. He continued, "Last night, I called my pastor. We spoke for hours. He told me something I've never forgotten: a man who cannot control his anger is a man who has already lost his home." Mrs. Adeyemi appeared in the doorway then, her face wary but hopeful. She looked at her husband, silently urging him to continue. Chief Adeyemi's voice broke. "I don't want to lose this family. I don't want to become the kind of man who leaves scars on the people he loves." For the first time, Amara saw tears glistening in his eyes. "I owe you an apology," he said, turning to her. "Not just for that night, but for every cruel word I've spoken to you. You are more than a maid, Amara, you are a young woman with courage and dignity. You reminded me of what truly matters." Amara blinked back tears, overwhelmed. "Thank you, sir. I only spoke because I didn't want to see this family fall apart like mine did." Mrs. Adeyemi moved forward, taking her husband's hand. "Then let's rebuild, Adeyemi. Together." Kemi, who had been standing silently behind her mother, rushed forward and hugged her father tightly. "I love you, Daddy. Please don't ever scare us like that again." Chief Adeyemi held his daughter close, his shoulders shaking. "Never again, my princess. Never again." From that day on, the household slowly transformed. Chief Adeyemi began attending anger management counseling and spent more time with his family. The shouting matches ceased, replaced by conversations filled with patience and understanding. For Amara, the change felt like a heavy weight lifting from her chest. She no longer crept through the house in fear, and for the first time, she allowed herself to dream beyond survival. One evening, as she packed her bag to visit her brother Chinedu, Chief Adeyemi approached her. "Amara," he said, handing her a white envelope. She looked inside and gasped. It was more than enough to cover Chinedu's school fees and living expenses for the year. "I want to help you as you've helped us," he said simply. "Consider it a small token of gratitude." Amara's hands trembled. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Just say you'll keep being brave," he replied with a faint smile. As she left for her journey to see Chinedu, Amara glanced back at the mansion. It no longer felt like a prison, but like a place of healing. Sometimes, the bravest thing one can do is speak up, even when it means risking everything. Because one voice, spoken at the right moment, can change not just a house, but an entire life. And as the evening sun bathed the world in gold, Amara whispered to herself, "Silence protects no one. Sometimes, you must speak." She walked away with her head held high, knowing that both she and the Adeyemis had found a new beginning.